Hey folks, this is Kalani. Leveling in World of Warcraft is going to change forever with the next expansion. Shadowlands isn't just going to add on another 5 or 10 levels for us to venture through, it's going to completely rewrite the leveling experience for the entire game. After this expansion launches, leveling will be faster, more streamlined, and perhaps most importantly, make more sense. New and returning players should feel better equipped for getting caught up to current content, and the days of bouncing between timelines over and over again in a short period of time should be entirely behind us. Let's have a look at what's changing and why this is so important for the game moving forward. Alrighty, because everything is changing, let's start with the easy stuff. We won't have 120 levels in Shadowlands or even 130 levels. Our levels are getting squished, which puts us back down to a max level of 60. That's after you're done with the new expansion's leveling content. Shadowlands will take you from level 50 to 60, so anyone at max level right now, at level 120, will get squished down to level 50 when the pre-patch for the expansion starts up. We won't be any less powerful, we won't lose any of our gear, it's literally just the number of levels that's changing. You don't lose anything in this process, it just makes levels easier to understand and it allows the dev team to shift around the leveling process so it doesn't take absolutely forever to get another character up to a decent level. That means for any new or returning players that start again fresh, you'll have to get through a new leveling experience of 1 to 50 before you can hop into the Shadowlands, and at that point you'll be caught up with everyone else. 50 levels might not sound like a lot of time to get through, what do we have at this point? 8 different expansions worth of content if you count vanilla as its own section. You'd be changing areas, zones, expansions every 6 levels or so. That's obviously not ideal, and that's not how leveling will work when this update goes live. It would be pretty daft to have you go from questing in the original zones to suddenly in TBC after 10 levels, and then into Wrath after another 10 levels, then to Kata, then to Mop, and so on and so forth. So how exactly is this new leveling experience going to work? Your leveling journey will be a bit different depending on whether you've played WoW before or not. For brand spanking new players, you'll get some more hand-holding, which is fine, it's your first time playing so you might need a bit more guidance of where to go and what to do. And you get the latest content so it actually makes sense, instead of going back and playing through a 10-year-old story and then suddenly jumping to the present when you get high enough. So for new players, you'll kick things off in a new starting area called Exile's Reach. This is an entirely new leveling experience which will take you from level 1 up to level 10. Your faction has discovered a previously unexplored island and sent a team to go and investigate. They haven't been in contact for a while, so a second expedition is being sent to figure out exactly what's going on and what went wrong. You are part of that second expedition, so the Exile's Reach zone will be all about testing your mettle, proving your worth, getting to grips with your class and its spells and abilities, and then rescuing your allies from whatever trouble they've gotten themselves into. This is a varied land with a lot of WoW's favourite and famous creatures like murlocs and ogres. As you progress through the zone, you'll learn about a particularly nasty ogre who has your friends captive and is planning on sacrificing them in a grand ritual. The experience will culminate in a mini dungeon with 2 bosses that you'll have to work through to defeat the ogre necromancer and his reanimated pet. This dungeon won't have a lot of the typical restrictions that you'll find in other dungeons. It will scale to how many players you have, so you should be able to complete it on your own or with up to 5 players without any role restrictions. Which does make a lot of sense. You can't really have a dungeon finish off a starting area and require a healer and tank. The DPS players running through Exile's Reach would be waiting forever before they could get off their starter island. Definitely not ideal. So no matter what you decide to play or what class you pick up next, finishing off that dungeon right at the end of Exile's Reach shouldn't ever be a problem, but it will give newer players a taste of what dungeons could be like, what group play is like, and what lies in store for them if they continue their adventures and leveling up. If you're not new to the game and decide to create a new character, you'll have a lot more choice about what you can do. You'll be able to head on over to Exile's Reach if you want to experience the new zone, or you can decide to run through the old starting areas instead. The choice is yours. What's really cool about the Exile's Reach area is that everyone can start there regardless of race or class. So if you want to start up a new character with a few friends, but no one can agree on what to play and you absolutely hate the idea of running around to get the Night Elves or the Dwarves dwarves over to Elwyn Forest so you can all group up and actually start to play, now you can just hop over to the Exile's Reach and play together right away. That's something I'm really excited for. And just in case you were wondering, that does include classes that have their own starting area. So you can boot up a Death Knight or a Demon Hunter and start out in Exile's Reach as well. A quick note on those classes, after all of these changes go live, both Death Knights and Demon Hunters will actually be starting at level 1 along with everyone else. I'm pretty sure the Allied Race and Pandaren Death Knights will get a new starting experience separate from the older Death Knights, so that's something to look forward to as well. The older starting areas aren't going away, you'll just be able to choose whether or not you want to do one of those or the new stuff. The majority of starting experiences will take you from 1 to 10 and guide you into your capital city for the next leg of your adventure. Allied races are a little different. They will bypass the starting areas just like they do right now and start at level 10, ready for the next step. Your adventures from level 10 onwards are going to be different again depending on whether it's your first rodeo or not. Brand new accounts will have to play through the Battle for Azeroth expansion with the latest story to explain what just happened before the Shadowlands, and that will take them all the way up to level 50. That's right, a single expansion will get you from level 10 up to level 50, and then you'll be ready to join the fight in the Shadowlands with everyone else and progress up to the new max of level 60. That's how it will work for new players, but for anyone who has already leveled in WoW before, you'll have a few more options. Somewhere in your capital city, you're going to be able to find Chromie. She recognizes that you don't need to be pushed through BFA to understand what happened there, and she'll allow you to go through any old expansion for your leveling path. That means you can choose to stay in the world as it currently exists, or you can go straight into the Burning Crusade and revisit Outlands. You can go to the Wrath of the Lich King and conquer Northrend, chase down Deathwing and the Cataclysm Zones, maybe chill out with the Pandas in Mist of Pandaria, or return to Draenor to take down the Warlords of Draenor. You can fight back against the Legion once more, or go through BFA if that's what you really want to do. You can choose from any expansion at level 10, and you can also hop around them if you want to, but an expansion's worth of content will take you up to level 50 no matter which expansion you choose. So you can stay in Outlands for 10 to 50 or Northrend for 10 to 50, it's completely up to you how you want to level. When you hit level 50 you can hop on over to the Shadowlands and continue from there. This fixes two major problems with how leveling works right now. The first is that you'll be able to progress through the story of an entire expansion without hitting a random level wall and being told to move on. And the second is that you won't be bouncing around timelines for your entire leveling path. One expansion, one timeline, one story. If that's how you want to play it at any rate, it should make a lot more sense and be more enjoyable no matter who you are. And it's also going to be significantly faster. According to the dev team, leveling from 1 to 50 should be about 60 to 70% faster than 1 to 120 right now. That is an incredible increase of leveling pace, but honestly it makes a lot of sense. Whether you like it or not, old expansions and old content just don't matter in current World of Warcraft. The latest expansion with the latest zones, the latest quests and story, that's what people want to be involved in, but skipping over the old expansions entirely wouldn't be ideal either. I've talked about this at length in previous videos. Getting to the current content shouldn't take you forever, but it also shouldn't be free. Hopping around several different storylines and timelines is also very disorienting, especially if you haven't played before. I thought using the Caverns of Time would be a nice way to split up the different expansions, but the dev team decided to go with Chromie instead. It's the same outcome though. It is a little bit lazy when you think about it, but it's also an incredibly elegant solution. I think it's going to do wonders for the game going forward. For 50 to 60, you'll be venturing around the Shadowlands, working with the 4 covenants of the 4 major questing areas to figure out why the whole process of death is currently broken in Shadowlands, and then you'll get to explore them more when you're level 60. That's going to be a max level only zone. These leveling changes are going to be massive for the game as a whole, and they may be more important than we realise. The new player experience will be more curated, so they aren't bouncing around 15 years worth of old storylines and they just get caught up with the most recent expansion. They might actually have some idea of what's going on. Older expansions are actively explained as old content with a time travel focus, so it's more of, this is what happened in the past, there might be something to learn from this, rather than champions. Northrend is our next target. Destroy the Lich King and all he stands for. when the Lich King was actually defeated over a decade ago, so that should hopefully give newer players more reason to stick around for endgame. It's also going to be a lot faster to get caught up. No one likes to join a party late, so it's a good thing that we'll be able to get new friends up to speed in a decent time frame instead of saying, oh hey, you should check out World of Warcraft. Yeah, you have to go through 120 levels before you can play with me, but that's okay, it should only take you a few weeks. It's not just for the new players though. This new leveling experience should encourage more people to roll alts. You can play through specific expansions and even play through different expansions on different alts, so your entire leveling path could be completely varied. It's going to be faster to get those alts up to speed as well, so there isn't that huge looming time barrier that you have to get past before playing an alt becomes fun. This also sets us up nicely for future expansions. When the next expansion rolls around after Shadowlands, the Shadowlands leveling experience could be the one new players go through to get caught up, and every expansion could take us from 1 to 60, with 60 to 70 being the new stuff. The foundations are there to create a system that never leads back to the problem of multiple timelines and having to grind through several expansions before getting to the most up-to-date content. This will change leveling in World of Warcraft forever. It's a big reset button for the world, and it really was sorely needed. When you add these changes to the leveling updates that we've seen recently, namely the addition of world scaling and the party sync feature, you have an experience that's open to almost everyone. You can pick and choose which expansion to play through, you can play with anyone at any level, anyone from 10 to 50 should be able to party up with zero issues thanks to scaling, and even level 60 characters will be able to tag along with anyone else with party sync. Getting your friends into WoW should be a piece of cake. Another thing that squishing the levels allows the dev team to do is make every level feel more meaningful than it does right now. This has come up again and again on the various panels. Every level will feel meaningful. Right now in WoW, you can go 20 or 30 levels without seeing a new ability or spell. The talents are spread out pretty thinly, and some of the more recent expansions have had entire systems ripped out of them so they're left bare and barren. Now that they can consolidate everything we have so far into 50 levels instead of 120, that's already going to help out a bunch, but they're also bringing back a lot of spells and abilities that were previously removed. Rogues, for example, will get their poisons back regardless of spec. Mages will be able to use multiple schools of magic at the same time. All warlocks will get their curses back regardless of spec. Shamans will even be getting some of their persistent totems back, like Healing Spring Totem. All of this unpruning helps towards the idea of getting something for every level. You might get an ability, you might get a talent, you might unlock your next mount, or another dungeon, or a new system or feature, but whatever it is, you should get something every time you level up. Hopefully that extends past the 1 to 50 experience, and each level in the Shadowlands expansion is also meaningful and important. I guess we'll have to wait and see. We do know a little bit about how our leveling will work in Shadowlands, so we can touch on that before we head off. Instead of the leveling path being open like it was in Legion and Battle for Azeroth, we're going back to a linear progression through the 4 zones. We'll start off by visiting the Maw briefly before being taken to the Arbiter in Oribos. This is the new big city hub, where I'm sure we'll be spending a lot of time AFKing and auction housing, transmogging, and some more AFKing. Our actual leveling will start in the Bastion zone. We'll meet the Kyrian, see what they're all about, borrow some of their power and try to fix some of the issues in this particular zone. Then we'll move on to Maldraxxus and meet the military might of the Shadowlands, the Necro Lords. We'll borrow some of their power, see how we like it, fight a few wars no doubt, and then move on to Ardenweald. This is a beautiful area where beings of nature come to rest before being reborn. It's a massive twilight forest. We'll meet the Night Fae and see what they're all about, and finish off our leveling adventure in Revendreth. This is the vampire one, which a lot of people seem very excited about. That's the last one on the list sadly, but it's the same thing. Figure out what this area is about, fix some problems, get a few levels. You're not going to have the flexibility of going where you want the first time you play through the Shadowlands, so everyone will be locked into the same zone order. Playing through each zone is going to be super important because when you hit max, you're going to need to choose a covenant. As you level up through each zone, you'll be borrowing that zone's covenant powers, and when you move on to the next zone, you'll lose those powers, but borrow some new ones. When you choose a covenant at max level, you'll be locking in your choice of which powers you want, and you'll earn favour and reputation with one of the 4 covenants specifically. Getting to test everything out before we have to choose one is really nice, so choose well. Your covenant choice will include more than just powers, like access to unique mounts, weapons, armor, and so much more. We'll talk more about covenants in detail in an upcoming video, so stay tuned. The experience for your alt will be a little different. You'll be allowed to explore the zones in any order, and you can actually lock in your choice of covenant right away and start progressing towards some of your endgame goals. Playing through with additional characters should be much easier and a lot more efficient in Shadowlands, which is also fantastic to see. At max level you can start poking around the Maw and the Tower of the Damned, but that's a topic for another video. What do you think of the level squish and the leveling changes from what you've seen so far? Will the ability to play through a single expansion and get caught up encourage you to play more alts, or does it depend more on how fast leveling will end up being? I don't think the 60 to 70% faster thing included experience bonuses like heirlooms, by the way, so leveling could be incredibly fast with all these changes implemented. But how do you feel about all of this info? Leave all your thoughts in the comments section below. A big thank you to all of our supporters over on Patreon. You can see their names floating by on screen. If you want to join these lovely guys and gals, you can find a link in the description below. Remember to leave a like just below the video before you leave. If you want to see more, make sure to subscribe. But apart from that, thanks for watching folks, good luck and have fun, and as always I will see you next time.